forgive me for my bluntness here, but I understand Christian nationalism or white Christian nationalism as the theology of fascism in this country, and fascism needs a social base. It's a movement for the powerful and the wealthy, but it needs a social base. It needs bases, actual people, boots on the ground, folks who can execute the agenda of fascism and that social base needs to be big and wide enough that it actually can sustain a movement over time. And that can't. I think they are very clear that that can't just be white folks in this country, because this country is as diverse as it is. And so I think Christian nationalists have been very strategic, as Aaron said, about targeting and recruiting communities of color into their movement, even though the movement itself is so deeply saturated by and rooted in systemic racism. Um, so I think there's a lot of dynamics there to break open, and that is fodder for a much longer conversation. And there's a lot of contradictions at work there. But it is, I think, pretty important for folks to recognize it. I think the largest in the next couple decades, the largest increase in Christians in this country will be Pentecostal, the folks in the Pentecostal movement and the evangelical movement. And the majority of those folks, if borders are not totally closed, will be folks from Latin America. And at the moment, the Christian nationalist movement has gotten very good at figuring out how to bring some of those folks into their movement, even as the agenda of Christian nationalism is as jingoistic and anti-immigration as it is. So it's really complex and dynamic, but I think it's something that we actually really need to grapple with as folks that are concerned about democracy and justice. And so I think it's perfectly good to use white Christian nationalism as one turn of phrase